and I think it's like a MMFM book, male, male, female, male. There was a lot of people. I don't know. I couldn't keep track. ChatGPT says it's Michaelides. I don't know. Okay, I don't know. Gilmore Girl-ish with a little spice in there. Like, it's a good feeling kind of series. Oh, okay. I rate my spicy meter where a 5 is like a pucking around. Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Thank you so much for clicking on today's video. As you can already tell from the title, we are going to be going over our January reads and do a little bit of a January wrap up. I want to pause right here and say that if you guys see like 2 or 3 videos where I am wearing the same outfit, is because I am filming it on the same day. If you guys are new here, I've mentioned in a few of my previous videos that I have a 5-month-old baby and life is beautiful and chaotic and all the good things, but that forces me to plan my days or my life in general just a little bit more than I would have prior to having my baby. So I have certain days where my mom will come over, she gets to have cuddle time with her grandbaby, and I get to get certain things done, whether that's filming or editing or cleaning or some project that I have around the house. Those are the days that I get things done. So I try to capitalize on that time and I try to film as many things as I can. So if you guys see this in my weekly eating video, it's because it's on the same day, guys. I just finished doing the intro for that video. But all that aside, let's get into it. I am so excited to share with you what I read in January because I feel like I read some pretty good books. I have a 5-star read, which is always fantastic. You want to start off your year with some good books. The rest of them, I think, were 3-4 stars. All of them were good reads. I would recommend or suggest all of them, depending on who the person is and what they like. But I do have a 5-star read and I'm so excited. I am currently, well, actually, what day is it today? Today is January 29th. So we're not completely done with January, but I know that I'm not going to have time to finish up a book between now and the beginning of February. So I think that's all I'm going to have for January. And I did good. I did 5. I think in my previous reading wrap up or my TBR video, I wanted to read 3 books, which was The Silent Patient, and I wanted to finish 2 books that I was already kind of in the middle of, which is The Christmas Tree Farm by Laurie Gilmore and The Nanny by Lana Ferguson. In my last reading vlog, you'll see that I did not finish The Nanny. I don't know what it is about the book. I just really was not in the mood to read it. It just wasn't grabbing my attention, and it's not, I don't necessarily think it's a bad story. I think the storyline is really interesting. I don't know if it's the style of the writing or I don't know what it was. I just wasn't in the mood and I didn't want to waste time forcing myself to read something that I really didn't want to read. So I picked another book instead. And yeah, it happened to be a really, really good read. So let's go through what I read in January and then I will share with you my February TBR. I'm going to open up my iPad here because I have a notes section. So if you see me looking down, it's because I am looking at my book reviews just so that I can refresh my memory if I need it. But that is another thing that I am trying to be super consistent with this year is reading the books, and immediately after reading them and kind of sitting on it and giving it my rating, I want to take time and write my book review. Right now, all of these are digital and I probably will print them and hole punch them and put them in a binder because I do have a binder with book reviews from previous books that I read 2 years ago because last year I did not write any book reviews down and I really regret it. So I'm trying to stay on top of that this year. But when you're reading so many books, I could be so into the book in the moment and just be eating it up and absolutely love the book. But then 6 months down the road, some of the details are a little bit fuzzy and I'm just like, what was that story about? And it's really nice to be able to go back and kind of read a little snippet of what my thoughts were on the book, and then it kind of all comes back to me, like my imagination and the scenery that I picture and the characters I picture, they all kind of come back to me. That is why I want to try to stay on top of writing my book reviews. Anyway, on to the very first book, which is The Silent Patient. This is written by Alex Michaelides. I feel like I'm butchering that name. I should look it up. Hold on.
How do you pronounce Michaelides?
Okay, so ChatGPT says it's Michaelides. I don't know. Okay, I don't know. But I gave this book a 3-star, which is not terrible. I think anything under a 3-star is kind of where I'm like, I'm not sure if I would recommend this book. I think a 3-star is still solid. I very much enjoyed the read, but when I give something a 3-star, that just means that there was something in the book that really just didn't sit well with me, or multiple things that didn't sit well with me that doesn't make sense. The characters are really either super annoying, there was no character development, etc., etc. So The Silent Patient is a psychological thriller following the story of Alicia Berenson. She is a famous artist, and one day she shoots her husband husband 5 times and then never speaks a word after this. She becomes a media sensation known as the silent patient, which is where the title comes from, and has been residing at a psychiatric unit in a place called The Grove. Cue in the MMC Theo Faber, who is a psychotherapist, and he becomes obsessed with her case and with wanting to help her. So he gets a job at The Grove so that he can try to become her psychotherapist, which he ends up succeeding at. But like I said, the woman doesn't talk. She has not talked since she shot her husband, and he's trying to get her to trust him and open up and share her side of the story because clearly he's curious and he wants to know. Without giving any spoilers, because if you have not read the book, I would recommend for you to read it. I feel like this book, I've seen a lot of people rate it a 5-star and they absolutely love it. For me personally, there were a few things that just felt a little bit inconsistent. They didn't make sense in the real world and how things work in the real world. But I feel like sharing that would give away like the main suspense and plot part of the story. But I will say that this book was entertaining enough that I was able to continue reading it. This book was very interesting. It was very creepy, very eerie, very atmospheric. The writing style I thought was great. This had nothing to do with the writing style or anything like that. Like I said, it was just little parts of the book that I just felt didn't fully make sense. For example, without spoiling it, there is a part of the book where Alicia is drugged and given a pretty lethal dose of morphine that's injected into her vein. But before she completely blacks out, she has enough time to find her journal and write an entry. And I feel like that, like how long does it take for morphine to kick in if it's a very high amount? I feel like you don't have that much time for that. So not only to be injected with a drug, but have time to scramble through your things, find your journal, write everything down, yada, yada, yada. Like, it just didn't feel super realistic. But I will say that the story, when you do get to that point in the story where there's a twist in there, you're like, oh, it's a little juicy. It's a little scandalous. I did not know. It was very interesting. But for me, I gave it a 3-star. The second book that I read was The Christmas Tree Farm by Laurie Gilmore. Now, this is part of the Dream Harbor series, the super popular, super viral Pumpkin Spice Cafe, Cinnamon Bun Bookshop, The Christmas Tree Farm. There are 2 other books that are out right now that I want to catch up on. But this entire series is super cozy, and there's something about books like that where it's a small town and you know the characters, and it's just like Gilmore Girl-ish with a little spice in there. Like it's a good feeling kind of series. That is Dream Harbor series. This book was fantastic. I gave it a 4-star. I read this one on my Kindle, and I believe it's on Kindle Unlimited if I'm not mistaken. And one thing I love about series like this is that as you read the stories, you still get a glimpse of the previous characters from the other story and kind of where they are in life. And I love that about a story. So yeah, this is a really, really good cozy series, but it definitely has some spice in there. The Silent Patient, I don't know if I mentioned it, but The Silent Patient was like not a spicy book. There were a few scenes in there where it kind of mentions intimacy, but not in a spicy kind of way at all. The Christmas Tree Farm, I gave it a 4-star, like I said. And as far as the Little Chili Peppers, I gave it a 3.5 out of 5. I think that's pretty spicy. The spicy scenes are written really well. The whole story, the plot line is super captivating, and the spice just kind of adds onto it. Not like pucking around. So this is kind of how I rate my spicy meter, where a 5 is like a pucking around. If you have not read Pucking Around is a hockey romance that is 99.99999% porn, and there's very little plot, and it's just like, I think that one is it's a Y choose, and I think it's like a MMFM book, male, female, male. There was a lot of people, I don't know, I couldn't keep track. That book had some smut. That's a 5. But this story follows the FMC Kira, who impulsively buys a Christmas tree farm, intending to run it herself, not relying on other people, so that she can prove that she can do it all on her own, even though she's not a Christmas fan. So you don't like Christmas, you're a little Grinch, but you get a Christmas tree farm. The MMC Bennett, who is the brother of Jeannie, which is the FMC for the very first book, The Pumpkin Spice Cafe, he is in town visiting his sister, and through one event and another, he gets stuck at Kira's house during a snowstorm, so it is very close, forced proximity. And throughout the entire story, they do have like a lot of that tension going back and forth. She's the grumpy, he's the sunshine, she's trying to be Miss Independent. He has a history of getting with women that just need him. They need something from him, and he's like a Mr. Fix-It-All, and he's really trying hard to get away from that. But then he meets Kira, and she's all alone on this Christmas tree farm that needs renovation and all of this stuff. And of course, he wants to help her. So that's kind of where their story goes. I think overall, the actual storyline is really interesting, and it kept my attention the whole way through, just like all of the other books. Honestly, they're all very easy, very fast read. I thought this story had really good character development because Kira starts off as like this, I can do it all by myself, I need to prove myself. And Bennett starts off as this, I constantly get with women who just need me to fix things for them, and I can't help myself but to help a damsel in distress. And you get to see their progression throughout the story and the different events that force them to kind of grow up a little bit or to face their fears. I thought it was a really good story, and it was a solid 4-star read. Overall, I think the Dream Harbor series is a really good series. I really enjoy it. Like I said, it's cute, it's cozy, it's spicy, it's perfect. But yeah, that was my second book of the month. The next book that I listened to this one actually on Audible, and it is The Housemaid is Watching. I have read at this point all of the 3 main books, but I still have to read that little novella that's like in between. I think it's like The Housemaid's Wedding or something like that. But as far as the 3 main books, I finally finished those. The Housemaid is one of like my god tier 5-star books. It was such a good story. The second book, The Housemaid's Secret, was also a 5-star read. That was another really, really good story. So I had really, really high hopes for The Housemaid is Watching. I also went to go see The Housemaid with my oldest daughter, so I was like in the mood. I was like, you know what, it wasn't part of my TBR, but while I'm cooking and cleaning and doing all the little things, I'm gonna listen to it. And if you have read any of Frida McFadden's books, you know that her writing style is like very fast-paced, very addictive. There's creepy elements, there's eerie elements, and then out of nowhere, it's like boom, there's a plot twist. And then at the very end, there's always a little extra like twist in there that you're like, oh, okay. That's her kind of writing style, super addictive. So I had very high hopes. I've read quite a few of Frida McFadden books. Now, all of them are 5 stars. Some of them I find them to be kind of like mid, but the majority of her books are really good. And even the books that are kind of like, I still enjoy reading them because her writing style is just so good. So I had very, very high hopes, but unfortunately, this book got a 3-star. And I really, really thought that this was going to be another 4 or 5-star book, but it just wasn't for several reasons. Of course, I'm not going to spoil anything for you, but The Housemaid is Watching is a few years into the future where Millie and Enzo move out of the city into Long Island. They move into their dream house with their 2 children, Ada and Nico. And as they're getting acclimated to their neighbors and Enzo expanding his business, you start to notice that there's some kind of like creepy stuff going on, some creepy neighbors. And the story kind of takes off from there where it's a seemingly quiet and beautiful neighborhood, but there's definitely something that's underneath the surface. The reason that I gave this book a 3-star is because the Millie and Enzo in this book, to me, are not the same Millie and Enzo from The Housemaid or The Housemaid's Secret. I feel like that Millie, now given like this is years into the future, but I feel like that Millie was a badass, and she was so sharp and so on point with things, and the dynamic between her and Enzo was just such a beautiful union. They're helping women out together. Like, it was just really, really good. This story is completely different because now it's not so much that they're helping someone else, but this is something that's happening to them in their lives. And Enzo acts throughout this book in a way that I just wouldn't expect Enzo to act, and I was almost kind of annoyed with him with how he was downplaying certain situations. I don't know. It was a different take, and I feel like the series should have ended at The Housemaid's Secret. I will say the audiobook, it was really entertaining. Like I said, I don't think I've ever read or listened to a Frida McFadden book that didn't interest me at some point and enough to keep me hooked to continue the story and want to know how it ends. That was this book, but it just did not live up to the expectations that I had, and therefore it got a 3-star. It still has a twist, it still has the turns and all that good stuff, but it's just not, it just wasn't it. But moving on to my first 5-star read of 2026. It is Caught Up by Liz. I don't know if it's Liz Tomford because on Audible it says Tomfordy, so I don't know, but it is from her Windy Cities series. This is a sports romance. All of her books so far that I've read, I've absolutely loved. I'm listening to Play Along. I just started it, and that'll be for my February reading wrap up, but I feel like this series has the potential to be a god tier series, meaning every book in the series is a 5-star. One of the things that I love about about this series is that every book has a real life kind of issue. It feels relatable, even if it's something that you're not going through. It's written so well. The characters are all pretty lovable. I don't think I've come across a character that I just find to be extremely annoying that I just can't finish reading the book. It is one of those interconnected kind of series where as you go along, you still get glimpses of the other characters from the other books. And I love that they all have like this little friend group going on, even though it's different sports and all of that. I absolutely loved it. In the third book, Caught Up, this is a single dad nanny trope, and I did not think I was gonna like the single dad nanny trope. I don't know what about it. Maybe it's because I've read some books before, and maybe that's why I'm honestly having a hard time reading The Nanny. But this book will make me at least give other single dad or single parent trope books a try, because I ate this book up and I loved it so much. Kai is just such a strong, protective kind of character, whereas Miller or Mills or Millie, the FMC, is a little bit of a wild card. She has no filter, she is spicy, but she's not like no filter wild card in an annoying way. Like, she is still a very responsible woman. She's a very young pastry chef who was just awarded a very prestigious award in her field. So it's not like she's like this annoying little brat of a daughter. She's a really good character. Both of them together are amazing. And basically this story, like I said, is about Kai and Mills. He's a single dad and she turns out to be the nanny. So Kai was living the single bachelor life, doing his thing every time they went from city to city while they were playing games. This is a baseball romance. Until one day a woman showed up at his doorstep with a 6-month-old baby, Max, and said, "Hey, this is your son. I tried my best to like keep it from you and I was gonna raise him all on my own, but I really don't want to be a mom. So here you go." And he became a parent from one day to the next and immediately jumped into that role of being a parent and caring for this child and trying to do the best that he could by this kid. And because he is such a key player, they were able to kind of tweak things around where he would be able to still travel with his son and they would hire nannies for him, but he kept finding an issue with every single one of his nannies and they kept getting fired. So the head of the baseball team, Monty, who is the father of Miller, came up with this great idea when Miller told him that she had 2 months off of work. She was super burnt out. Her creative spark was gone and she just needed a break. And he's like, "Cool, I want to spend time with you. I really, really miss you because you're constantly from city to city. Why don't you come travel with me and help me out while you're at it by being a nanny to Kai's son, Mac?" And that is how she got the role of being a nanny. Did she want to really do it? No. But she did want to spend time with her father and she felt like she owed it to him. So that is how the story started. And obviously, you know, it is a romance story and the tension was there. The spicy scenes were good. I don't know if I mentioned like the chili spice rating, but I gave this one a 4. This one was a really good spicy book, but the spice wasn't like the main part of the story, and there's still like a little bit of like that yearning and that tension. There definitely was a build up to it. It was just such a good story. If I could persuade you to read any kind of sports romance, I would definitely start you off with the Windy City series. It was just a really, really good book. So that was my first 5-star read of the month. Now the very last story, I just finished reading it last night, and this book was just a spur of the moment kind of book. It was on Kindle Unlimited and I looked it up after I saw a video with Larry and Mama Eureka, and they were talking about their God tier series, and she mentioned that the Soul series by Harley LaRue was one of her God tier series and gave a little snippet of her Soul to Take, and I was like, oh, that sounds interesting. This is a dark romance. It is a paranormal romance. It is a very spicy one. I gave this book a solid 4-star, and it would have been a 5-star if I did not find the FMC Ray or Raylan to be so freaking annoying. For like, I'll get into the summary of the book and what it's about, but I found her character to be so annoying because she was constantly throwing herself into harm's way. She was super stubborn. The girl's self-preservation skills were non-existent. She redeemed herself a little bit at the end, but even then I'm just like, girl, I don't know how Leon put up with you. Leon is the MMC. I have the summary here. Let me just read to you what this story is about. Her Soul to Take by Harley LaRue is the first book in the Souls trilogy. It is a dark, spicy paranormal romance featuring a ghost hunter who becomes entangled with the demon and a cult in a small town with dark academia elements. The story follows protagonist Ray as she hunts ghosts and finds herself in a dangerous situation with a demon named Leon who claims he wants her soul, leading to a steamy and intense supernatural relationship. It is known for its explicit content, supernatural themes, and dark romance tropes, gaining popularity on platforms like TikTok. There is a lot of like culty, mysterious, really, really fucked up shit going on in this story, and that is why I gave it a 4-star. Now this book I gave a 5 on the spicy meter because not only are there quite a few spicy scenes, but they are like they spicy. This is not like pucking around. It's not like that. This one actually has a really, really good storyline and a really good plot, and there's adventure, there's darkness, there's mystery, there's creepy eeriness, and just like all the things wrapped into one. It definitely has dark academia vibes, gothic-y kind of vibes. It's a really, really good storyline. I would have given it a 5-star if Raylan didn't piss me off like 90% of the book, but she did. So I gave it a 4-star. I really wish that I wasn't so annoyed with Ray and this would have been a 5-star book, but I will not let that deter me from reading the other books or from recommending this book. You might not find her to be so annoying. Maybe I just don't have that much patience. I don't know. But nonetheless, it was still a really, really, really good read with really, really, really good smut. So do with that what you will. And that was the last book that I read for January. I had a goal of 3. I read 5. I'm pretty proud of myself. I think for the month of February, I'm gonna set a goal of 5 books. I'm gonna try my best though. So let me share with you my February TBR. The very first one that I'm gonna be reading, which I don't think I'm gonna include this as like one of the 5. I think this is just gonna be an extra one. And I'm not sure what this would count as far as like my book count, because technically there are 14 short stories in this. And I always count like short stories and novellas when I read it towards my book count. So I don't know if that's what I'll be doing with this. I don't know. But I picked this up from Target. They also have it at Barnes, but Target had a 20% off. And it is the Meet Cute Countdown to Valentine's Day. I made a shorts about this. There are 14 short stories. Super cute. You read it from February 1st to the 14th. So technically this is the first book on my list, but I'm not sure if this counts as one book or 14 books. You let me know your opinion in the comments down below. The second book on my list, and I will be putting up pictures on the screen, but the second book on my list is going to be A Court of Wings and Ruin. I have read the first 2 books in the ACOTAR series, so A Court of Thorns and Roses, A Court of Mist and Fury. Now I'm going to read A Court of Wings and Ruin. I want to finish the series this year, and just my luck, my sister-in-law just got into reading ACOTAR, so we're going to be reading that one together. I already took it off. It was like up here, and I already took it out, and it's in my bedroom. She's already on chapter 15, so I need to catch up. So that is probably going to be the very first book that I get into, because I want to catch up so that we can continue reading it together. Super excited to get into that one and see how the story continues. I know that it's a good series, and I absolutely love the first 2 books, so that's going to be my second book. My third and fourth book, like I mentioned before, are the following books in the Windy City series. I want to try to wrap that series up, so that is Play Along and Rewinded Back. I believe there's going to be a spin-off that's going to be happening soon this year, if I'm not mistaken, with Monty, which he is in the Caught Up book and also in this current book Play Along, and Reese, who has taken over her father's business and is the new head of the baseball team. So that's going to be a really good one, and I'm excited to read that one. So I want to get these 2 books out of the way and be caught up with the series before the new book comes out. So that is book 3 and 4. Actually, now that I think about it, it's 6 books. It's 6 books for February, because I also want to finish Soul's trilogy, and I know that that's kind of ambitious, but between reading it on my Kindle, reading the physical copy, listening to it on Audible, I feel like I can get it done. So the very last 2 books that I'm going to be reading this month, or I'm going to attempt to read this month, are the last 2 books in the Souls trilogy by Harley LaRue, which is Her Soul for Revenge, and the last one, which is Soul of a Witch. So those are all of the 6 books that I plan to read in February. I do plan on doing another reading vlog. I enjoyed the January reading vlog. It was the very first one that I did on my channel, and I really enjoyed it. So I think I'm going to do another one for February and then come back with a February wrap up, March TBR, you know the drill. But yeah, I'm super excited. I'm very happy with the books I read in January. I feel like they were some really good solid reads, and I'm very excited for the books that I'm going to be reading in February. So yeah, that is it for this video, guys. If you guys are still here, thank you so much. If you like to give it a thumbs up, let me know what books are on your February TBR. And if you're not subscribed, please consider subscribing. I would love to have you here. And until the next video. Bye, friends.